Hey everybody, it's Tim and Steve at Phantom History. We are doing another House Calls episode tonight. We're talking about Gettysburg.
We are. We're doing it a little bit different this time and talking about one of the most haunted locations in the United States.
It's going to be really cool. So we're going to be playing some examples of investigations, and then you're going to love it. So thanks everybody. Welcome to Phantom History House Calls. All right, so let's get started. Let's bring in our guest.
Absolutely. Hello, Taryn. How are you?
Good. How are you guys?
We're doing well. Thank you so much for chatting with us. You were so kind to have us on your podcast a few months ago, and I've also talked to you for an episode of Phantom History that I'm still putting together. And we decided to reach out to you for our experimental launch of our new format tonight. But before we jump into all the great Gettysburg stuff, tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
I'm from Jersey, born and raised. I am a paranormal investigator. I have a podcast called Paranormal Brew. I'm a part of a group called Paranormal Peaches, which we go around and we investigate and do all kinds of stuff. I'm, also do my independent thing, and I work with other groups as well. I'd say I've been in the field for about 15 to 20 years. I've been doing my podcast for 9 years. Yeah, that's it. That's kind of it. I come from a big family. I have 6 brothers, 1 sister, law enforcement family. So, yeah.
Now, you said Paranormal Peaches. I'm from Georgia, which is the peach state. Everything's peach down there. Is there any connection there?
Did you ever have a Jersey peach?
Oh, I have heard of it. I haven't because I'm from Georgia, so I don't know if I'm allowed.
No, it actually, it came up. The name came up funny because we used to investigate with. There used to be a couple of guys that were in the group, so we just called it the peaches and the bananas. And then the guys kind of dropped out, and then it was just like we're just the peaches. And then when we started to do all this paranormal stuff together, we're like, paranormal peaches, so there it is.
I love it. So we're going to bring you back in just a minute, but first we're going to be talking about some history stuff.
We are, absolutely. So as I said, we're going to talk about Gettysburg tonight. And one of our catchphrase is Phantom History, where the past and the paranormal collide. So obviously you can't have the hauntings if you don't have a past that was there before to cause the haunting. So I had a great opportunity, thanks to Taryn, to talk to Dustin Heisey, who is a historian and a reenactor in Gettysburg who shared a ton of information about the history of the place. Remember, if you are watching, drop your questions and your comments. We will be sure to get to those at the end of the conversations tonight. But first, here's a look at the history of Gettysburg. I'm talking to Dustin Heisey, who is not only a fan of Gettysburg, but you are a reenactor, and you live not too far from Gettysburg. In your own words, what is the historical significance of Gettysburg and, of course, its relation to the Civil War?
Well, you see, Gettysburg was pretty much the biggest the battle that took place during the Civil War. It happened in July of 1863, and it was kind of the turning point of the war because at that point, the Confederates were kicking our butts pretty much everywhere we went. When they came to Gettysburg, it was really Lee's first invasion to the North. So they come up here, they come to a town that's got 12 roads in and out of Gettysburg. It seems like the perfect place to hold an army.
Yep. Was it the deadliest battle?
It was deadly. I wouldn't say it was the deadliest. There were 53,000 casualties at Gettysburg. But when you're talking about what it's like in any Civil War battle, you're talking about death in a horrific fashion. It wasn't just the bullet wound that hurt you. It's the festering, the lead poisoning that came afterwards, the disease, the dysentery. It was just all out suffering. So what you have to understand is you have Confederates that came to Gettysburg that were walked all the way from Florida, and some of these people these guys had been marching for days and days.
Who won the Battle of Gettysburg?
So it was definitely a Union victory, and that's what I was talking about, when it comes to the turning point. So it changed the entire course, the entire scope of the war in basically into the Union's favor.
You said 53,000 people lost their lives. Were those all soldiers?
Well, yeah, that was primarily soldiers. There was really only one civilian that was actually killed during the Battle of Gettysburg, and that was Jenny Wade. She was shot in the lower back when she was baking bread.
I think a lot of people, myself included, who have not physically been to Gettysburg yet, I will be there, Picture like an open field, and don't realize that this battle was happening right by where people were living and just trying to have their lives.
Yeah, so it was in and amongst them. It was through the town. It was in their house. There are homes that are shot up to this day that if you go there, the Farnsworth house has hundreds of bullet impacts up the side of the house still to this day that you can see. So it's not just the killing, it's the maiming and these horrific wounds. And the heat, but there's the death of all of the animals. There were thousands of horses that were killed. And aside from that, all these people had to go to the bathroom. All these animals had to go to the bathroom. So you're talking about the smell of rotting flesh and the smell of feces and urine and everything. Gettysburg was hell on earth. And
are there any other specific people that stand out in your research?
Joshua Chamberlain, his story, and Chamberlain won the Congressional Medal of Honor for holding the extreme left flank of the entire Federal Army against attack after attack after attack. And when they had ran out of ammunition, he did the only thing that they could do. He fixed bayonets and conducted a charge down the hill into the Confederates. Had the Confederates on that flank succeeded, they would have swept down through and just cleaned out the entire Federal Army. It would have been a disaster. We could very well have had a Confederate States of America had that flank fallen that day.
What is the bloody wheat field?
It changed hands 6 different times. Okay. Several different divisions of Federal infantry would push down through the wheat field and then get pushed right back out. And this happened over the course of like 2 hours, and 6,000 people essentially became casualties in this very small portion of the field. And you're talking about hand-to-hand combat. The bloody wheat field, these guys were stabbing each other with bayonets. I mean, they were punching each other in the face. I mean, it was as intimate as you can get.
How big is the field? Like acreage or mileage? Any idea?
So you're only talking about 20 acres roughly.
Again, you think you know history, but there's always so much more to learn. So I appreciate you sharing your expertise with us, telling me and anybody watching a little bit more about Gettysburg. I do plan to be there. I know it's a hot spot for history lovers as well as paranormal investigators. So I know it's always hopping with the living, hopefully visiting the dead as well. So Dustin, thank you for chatting with me. I really appreciate it.
Very much appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, man. Thank you.
So I loved talking to Dustin because he's so passionate about it. And Taryn, I know that you work closely with Dustin quite a bit and have actually caught some paranormal evidence at Gettysburg. And of course, during my conversation with Dustin, I did ask him if he ever had any paranormal experiences.
And I'm sure he said no, but he has.
He said no, but he did say the most convincing piece of evidence he's ever seen is a photo that you shared with him that we are going to show a little bit later on in the conversation. So just briefly, we heard a lot about the history of Gettysburg there. What is it about that location, in your opinion, that makes it so paranormal active?
The paranormal side of it? I think because of a lot of people say tragedy, but if you, like what Dustin said, it's the heartbeat of our nation. Had what happened at Little Round Top didn't happen, right now we could have a Confederate States of America, right? So what these men did there was of greatness. And I think, we can't forget that something like as 53,000 casualties in 2 days, is so significant. And I think the land holds a lot of those moments in time, whether they were men dying or men talking in between the fighting about, when they're going to get home and they're going to see their sweethearts, or the people in town that were, doing everything they could to either, shield people from the Confederacy or help the wounded, people that weren't doctors were performing, they were amputating people and so all of that, I think, just it's like encapsulated itself in that town. When you go there, the town has preserved the town so well. It's almost like you step back in time, and you can feel it in the air.
Which is an amazing feat to do, because it's so, I'm all for progress. We all love progress. We're doing this thanks to progress, but there's something about being able to transport yourself to another time, another place. And it sounds like Gettysburg is exactly that. And you talked about, it kind of having its vibe. And I wanted to share one of the clips that you shared with us. It's an EVP, so an electronic voice phenomena, even though there's no actual voice in this. I'm going to go ahead and play the clip, and then we'll talk about it.
Okay.
Wow, this is so cool.
That's not thunder. No, that's not thunder. I swear that's cannon fire.
It wouldn't be fireworks. Fireworks would be more constant.
That's barrages.
Yeah.
That's legit battlefield sounds.
It was incredible. I mean, when you listen to the recording, it sounds so far away, but it was, I mean, my car shook a couple of times.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like it had girth to it. So, I mean, I had my fiance listen to it. He's an Army vet. He said, that's not gunfire. Like that's not gunfire. It's not fireworks.
Right. And you could hear those live, right? While you were there, obviously, because you were commenting on them.
We were on Culp's Hill. We were sitting there, and all of a sudden we heard it. And unfortunately, I didn't catch a couple of the beginning. You know what I mean? But I started recording, and I was like, "Oh my god!" I have heard. I call them phantom noises. So to me, that's like a phantom cannon fire. But I've heard phantom like drum roll, where it'd be like the snare drum.
Oh yeah.
I've heard that. But I've never heard I have chills thinking about it, because being in the moment, it's just, I captured it, but being there and hearing it with your ears, it's something different.
Right. And you said you were sitting in your car. Were you actively on an investigation at the time?
We were getting ready to. We were parking. So the car was turned off. We were parking to get out to go down behind. There's a tower you can go up. We were going down behind to the field there at Culp's Hill, but we heard it, so we didn't want to move. We were like, oh gosh.
So I do want to play it one more time for everybody watching. Is there anything else you want to add before we play the clip one more time?
No, it's really just have an open mind.
Okay, check it out one more time.
That's not thunder. No, that's not thunder.
And there's even like one point you hear me say, like, as I'm saying something, there was one that was just like boom, like real loud. Yeah. And it made me like stop for a second. You know what I mean? Because it was so loud. And I'm like, we checked the weather. There was no thunderstorm. There was like the closest thunder strike was like 572 miles away, and or lightning. There was so far. So we knew it wasn't thunder. It definitely wasn't fireworks.
Right.
And it was not like a shotgun or anything that anybody would be using to hunt with or anything like that. It was, I mean, you hear it, and when you're hunting, you don't shoot like that.
Exactly. Yeah. And obviously this is a residual something from the battle in the 1860s. You always hear EVPs and you always think voice. At least I always do. So it's so cool to hear something other than.
I'm telling you, and I didn't capture the musket or the snare drum on audio, so I was happy to capture this. I think I've captured like maybe 2 or 3 phantom noises in all of my investigating. You know what I mean? And nothing. The other things were unclear as to what they were, but this, to me, anyway, to the people that were there, and it sounds like cannon fire.
Absolutely, and it does. And when I first listened to the clip, of course, I had to turn it up a little bit so I knew what I was listening to, which I think a lot of people forget that so much of paranormal investigating happens afterwards when you listen to these things. But the fact that you're able to hear it live is very cool. And that leads me to the next clip I want to share, where you catch almost like an echo of what somebody else said. Again, I'm not going to say too much about the clip, but this was during one of the investigations at Gettysburg as well. And we'll play this brief clip and then we'll talk about it. Check this out.
Yeah, I mean, it's right here.
Okay. Well, I don't want to. You can always reload it. So here, you want to go in the box too?
The box or, sorry, the SB7s.
Which do you prefer?
I like the box.
What do you guys whisper box?
Do we whisper box? No. I said the box, and he said the SB7. I said, which do you prefer?
So that is really creepy.
So it was me and SRS Paranormal. They're my friends, Matt now. There's a group of them, but they came up to Gettysburg so I could give them a paranormal tour. So that's all we did all weekend. And my friend Megan was up there, and they were actually getting out. They were getting out cigars to offer, and we were at Little Round Top. And I know Dustin spoke about how what a big pivotal moment in Gettysburg that was. That's my favorite spot. Chamberlain, I swear we were married in a past life. Like, I mean, he's like, I love that. So Little Round Top is always my spot to go. And so anyway, they were getting cigars out to offer to the soldiers. So they were, they had them in a box. So when he said the box, I heard he said the box, and then Al said the box, and then I heard box, and I said, and then they said box again. So I was like, did one of you guys whisper box? Because I heard the whisper, like I could hear it was something different. Mm-hmm. And they were like, no. I mean, you hear, that's why I leave the extra in there, because I want people to hear before and after the clip, because
it gives you context.
Yes, gives it context. Yeah. So I really quick, I do want to say that there is a quote that Joshua Chamberlain says, and it totally sums up everything. That what he says about, the spirits lingering in Gettysburg. He actually did a speech about it. I encourage everybody to look it up. Just look up Joshua Chamberlain, and it says, "In great deeds, something abides." That's the first couple of words to that quote. I won't say the whole thing unless we have time, but it's not that long, but it's a great quote. And it literally talks about people coming there from years that don't know of them now, that will know of them, and the spirits lingering on the fields for people to embrace and remember what they did here on these great fields. You know what I mean? Kind of just a little bit of a.
And if you have that quote handy, we definitely have time for you to share it. I'll give you a second to if you need to find it.
I have it.
But in the meantime, I'm going to play this EVP one more time now that we've explained it. Again, listen, you'll hear a whispered word box, and check it out. This one we were playing up, it gave us both chills.
Yeah, I mean, it's right here.
Okay. Well, I don't want to. You can always reload it. So here, you want to go in the box too?
The box or, sorry, the SB7s.
Which do you prefer?
I like the box.
That is so eerie. And again, I remember listening to it on the computer to kind of set it up for tonight, and Tim was across the room and he heard it too. It's like, what was that?
Yep. Yeah, crazy. It's pretty cool. And hear it with your ear. Yeah. And I do that. I make sure, did one of you guys just whisper the box? Because that's how it came to me. That's how I heard it. I heard it as a whisper. And I need to make sure with everybody that I'm with, I'm sure it gets on their nerves, but I'm always like, did you do this? Did you pull your speaker down? I need to know, because I can hear, So he says, in great deeds, something abides. On great fields, something stays. Forms change and pass, bodies disappear, but spirits linger to consecrate the ground for the vision place of souls, and reverent men and women from afar, and generations that know us not, and that we know not of, heart drawn to see where and by whom great things were suffered and done for them, shall come to this deathless field to ponder and dream, and lo, the shadow of a mighty presence shall wrap them in their bosom, and the power of the vision shall pass into their souls. And that was Joshua Chamberlain, October 3rd, 1889. He said that.
Wow. And what a great description of the place. And like you said, it's still alive with things that happened, 150 years ago.
Yeah, it's crazy because I've always heard about Gettysburg before I started going there, and I never wanted to go. I never had a desire. I hated history. I liked the paranormal, but I didn't want to have anything to do with it because I was afraid of it. But back when I would hear stories, it was mostly residual stuff, things replaying, people seeing repeats of history. But I've come to find that, and I don't know, it's because I go there so much. I have the coordinates tattooed on my arm.
Oh, wow. Okay.
How much I love Gettysburg. But I get mostly intelligent responses. Again, the cannon fire is residual. There are some things that do come across residual, but for the most part, I am getting, I mean, I was at Little Round Top and I couldn't find it. I wish I could have for you because it was amazing. But it was so long ago. So it could be anywhere. But I said, are you from Pennsylvania? Thinking globally, because Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. And on the recorder, you hear, no, Maine. And I was at the 20th Maine Monument.
Okay. Wow. Too much
yeah. So, I mean, I'm so, at first I was like, what am I, an idiot? Like, why am I asking if they're from Pennsylvania when I'm at the 20th Maine Monument? If I would have said, are you from Maine? And all you heard was a, yeah. Anybody could argue that could have been my shoulder. That could have been a movement. That could have been this. It could have been that. But the fact that I got no Maine at the 20th Maine Monument, it's like, what?
Well, I want to share another one of your EVPs before we take a quick break and then come back to talk about my two favorite pieces of evidence that you shared, which is a very clear EVP and then a very eerie photograph. But this one is unintelligible, I believe, but yes. I believe you were able to hear this one in real time as well, although I can't remember. So we're going to play it real quick and then we'll talk about it. But I like this one too.
Like a male whisper. That's me whispering. Sorry for the recorders, but did you hear a male whisper? Just listen.
Yeah.
So
Matt heard that.
So you both heard it, obviously, because you asked about it.
Yeah.
Let's play that one more time real fast, and then we'll talk about it again.
Like a male whisper. That's me whispering. Sorry for the recorders, but did you hear a male whisper? Just listen.
So obviously we don't know who or what that was because we can't understand it. Any guesses on what you picked up?
No. And normally I probably wouldn't have included this, but I know that there's something there. I know we heard something, but I just can't make it out. And the fact that, I mean, it's Gettysburg. So, it could be anything. Like, again, it could be a residual sound, or I just don't know. I don't know. Usually my rule of thumb is when in doubt, throw it out. This would probably be an example, but it's still, there is something there. I just can't make it out. So it's not something that I would ever present as evidential recording. You know what I mean? Even though I know there's something there, I can hear it. I wouldn't, I just wanted to give an example of something like that. I can't hear you guys. You guys are muted.
What I'm struck by is, sorry about that, is that it seems like my understanding, I'm still really new to this whole world, right, of these investigations things, but it seems like most of the time you don't hear it live and you're finding it later on the recording. So you keep describing things that you're experiencing while you're there. Is that because you have all of this experience, your ears are tuned, or is it just lucky, do you think?
I honestly don't know. I mean, I literally and I'll send them to you guys. I'll email them to you. I just went through over the past couple of weeks. We were at Rolling Hills Asylum and we were at Hinsdale House, and I heard with my ears, and I literally turned to the girls. I'm like, did you just say this? Did you say that? They're like, no. And it happens all the time. They say I have bionic ears. That's what the girls tell me. They're like, you have bionic ears and you hear so much. And I'm like, So I don't know what it is. I don't know. Say there's clairaudience, there's clairs. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I don't know exactly what it is. I don't know how I hear them because it's not all the time, but it's at least once an investigation.
It's amazing. Are you by chance a musician?
I love music.
Just because I'm a musician and I feel like that has really trained my ears. So sometimes I hear things that I don't think like Steve doesn't hear. And I wondered if you had some sort of training in your background to get your ears really in tune.
No, I love music. And here's the thing, really quick, not to go into like a deep dive into anything, but I do have ADHD. And I know that when you take medicine for it, it kind of helps because I've learned that ADHD people, I could be talking to you guys in a crowded room and I'm not hearing you. I'm hearing everybody else around me. I'm hearing all these conversations. It's like you have this, it's a gift, but it's also a curse, right? Uh-huh. So you take the medicine and it calms that down. Well, I know that when I was on my medicine, I wasn't hearing as much. Now that I'm not on my medicine anymore, I am hearing a lot more. So
very interesting.
Yeah. So I wanted to try that out, and I did it. I have remained off my medication. Not a lot of people are happy about that, but
as long as you're happy.
No, I think it's very cool though that you're right. That gives you a certain extra perception of paying attention to things that a lot of people. I mean, people typically don't pay very much attention to what's all going on around them, and the fact that you've honed that skill, I think, is really impressive. I have to say, as somebody who's sort of been watching this. The cannon fire and the whisper are both like, this is some of the most compelling things I've ever heard from investigations.
I can send you guys so many more that you could just sit and listen to for hours, and you guys will love them. I'll email them to you. I have some really, really good ones.
Amazing. Well, listen, we're going to take a quick break and we're going to come back and hear some more evidence and also see the amazing photographic evidence.
Absolutely. Yeah. And remember, if you have questions, drop them in the chat. We'll get to those when we start wrapping this up. But we wanted to share another quick clip with you before we continue this conversation.
That's right. We're always out and about, and you can follow all of those adventures on our YouTube channel. Just search for Phantom History Podcast. And here's one. We were recently in St. Augustine. It's really fun.
No, we're doing a video.
We're good, but thank you, though. Y'all have fun. You want to get in our video? Say hi.
Yeah, say hi. We're from Iowa. Where are y'all from?
We're from Tampa.
Tampa? Oh, that's far.
Where are you?
We love spooky stuff, so that's why we're here.
You do the best.
We're going to do one of those.
Where are you guys from?
Iowa.
Iowa, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, how long are you in town for?
Till Monday night, Wednesday.
Yeah.
All right.
So we're ending up in Gainesville. Go Gators! Go Gators!
Well, everybody, it's Tim and Steve. We're in St. Augustine.
In front of the historic city gates that date back to the 1700s.
So these were the original city gates?
I believe so, yeah. Right behind there is St. George Street, which is the historic district, as well as the shopping district, which we're about ready to jump into. So this marks the entryway into the city for a lot of local farmers and merchants. It is also possibly one of the most haunted places in the city. It is said that the city gates are haunted by a spirit of a young girl who loves to speak to ghost tour guides and to paranormal investigators through dowsing rods. The Don Pedro Horrytiner House in St. Augustine dates back to the very first Spanish period and was home to 2 generations of governors. This is also one of the earliest incidents of a paranormal report being filed. This was back in 1821 when a young woman named Brigitta lived here with her family and reported being in the garden of this building, and she saw 2 women that looked very familiar, and she realized later that they looked just like 2 portraits that were hanging inside the family home. She described them as beautiful yet translucent. The Castillo San Marcos behind me in St. Augustine, Florida is very well known for all of its hauntings, but probably its most famous haunting is that of a figure walking along the wall behind me along the edge of the fort that doesn't have a head. Many believe that that is the spirit of Chief Osceola, who was tricked into surrendering here during the Second Seminole Indian War. And eventually he was transported up to South Carolina along with a lot of his followers. Interesting though with that, he befriended a doctor along those journeys, and when he passed away, the doctor wanted to commemorate him in a very odd and unique way. He actually severed his head and kept it in a jar of formaldehyde, and it was actually worth a lot of money. It's believed that Chief Osceola still haunts this location, possibly looking for his head, or that he has just unhappy with the way that his fellow Native Americans were treated. A young woman named Catalina is said to still be in this building behind me, which is now home to Harry's Seafood here in St. Augustine, Florida. It's said that Catalina in the 1760s, at the age of 10, was forced to leave her family home and flee to Cuba when the British stepped in to reclaim Florida from the Spanish. 11 years later, when the Spanish reclaimed Florida from Britain, Catalina came back to her family home in her early 20s and reclaimed the building and restylized it back to like it was when she was a child, and lived in the building for the rest of her life. It's said that she's still here, and she mostly haunts the women's restroom upstairs, often spot.
Okay, so we had so much fun in St. Augustine. I know, Taryn, you love that place, I'm sure.
Yeah, I want to go to the lighthouse.
Absolutely, and we visited it as well. And all of those clips that we just showed and more are available on our YouTube channel, where we went to those places. I researched the history, and we had a great conversation with one of our former guests who actually met us there and shared some of her stories as well. All that is on our YouTube channel as well.
So let's get back to more evidence because it's exciting.
Absolutely.
Heading toward that great photograph.
Absolutely. So we are talking about Gettysburg. And Taryn, thank you again for sharing all this amazing evidence with us. I know you have a lot more. And for taking the time out. And you have a podcast tonight at 8:30, so we're not going to keep you too long because I know Paranormal Brew has to go on. But
where do people find that podcast, Taryn?
So it goes live every Wednesdays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on Facebook and YouTube. So I have Paranormal Brew is on all social media outlets, but the live videos are on YouTube and Facebook.
Okay. And of course, we appreciate you having us on not too long ago, like we said before when we first met. And you've been a great ally for us to kind of get our feet underneath us in this world. So we appreciate it. So this last EVP I want to share with everybody is one that is so clear that when I listened to it, I didn't even know it was an EVP.
You're not the only one. Everybody that I let listen to it, they go, "Where's the EVP?"
Because I'm listening for that certain sound.
You're listening for a whisper.
Yeah, but that's not what it is. We'll go ahead and play it, then we'll talk about it.
What is that? Hey, turn this TV. Is the TV off?
Yeah, the cable box is still on.
So I thought that was you or another woman in the room, but no.
It's you, but when she's ending sleep, I start to talk.
Right.
And it has almost like an accent, a little bit of an accent towards the end.
So you were getting ready, you were turning off lights, getting ready for the investigation, right?
And yep. And it was just me and the male voice you hear there. It was an ex-boyfriend at the time, but we were together at the time. It was just me and him. We were the only ones in the inn. And we were turning the lights off. We were setting up recorders. And I heard something. If you hear me say, what was that? Mm-hmm. Because I heard something, but I do not recall what I heard. Okay. And then that's when I said, what was that? And you hear him go, what was what? Uh-huh. And then I'm listening to see if I hear anything else. And you hear, are you trying to sleep? And as she's saying sleep, I go, is the TV on? Because I knew I heard something, but I didn't know. And he's like, no, but the cable box is. So the TV was off. So I confirmed that. So you couldn't get anything out of that. But I didn't hear that. I didn't hear it. It's
amazing, again, that it's so clear. I'm going to play it again for everybody to listen to because this blew my mind. One more time.
Yeah.
What is that? Hey, turn this TV. Is the TV off?
Yeah, the cable box is still on.
Yeah. It's amazing. That Inn at Lincoln Square is an amazing place.
Well, I was going to say the location itself has a lot of history on top of being, in Gettysburg. How long ago was that recorded? Do you know, like a couple of years?
Yeah, that was probably, oh my gosh, that was probably around 2010, 2011.
Okay, so quite a while now.
Yeah. So yeah. Wait, let me think. It had to be in between like 2000. I'm lying. It had to be between like 2013 and 2017 in that time frame. Yeah.
Okay, so at least 10 years ago or so. At this point.
Oh my God, that is 10 years ago.
I know, isn't it crazy? Throws me off. So when I had the opportunity to talk to Dustin about the history of Gettysburg, thanks to your introduction, and I said earlier when we were kind of having the conversation, I asked him if he had any paranormal experiences. He said no, but he kept referencing a photograph that you shared with him. And I want to show everybody this, and we don't have to point it out because it's so clear in what we're looking at here. But here's the photograph, and we're going to zoom in on it in a minute. So there's the photo. What are we looking at? I see some train tracks. Where are we? What's happening?
So this is on the railroad cut. Well, the picture, I'm taking a photo of the railroad cut, looking away from town, and looking away from the town of Gettysburg. This is the summertime. So this is not a person wearing long jacket and boots. And I mean, it's literally July when I took this photo. I do have other photos, and if anybody's ever interested to what it looks like a person on the railroad tracks, and people are wearing tank tops and shorts, and they're pink and blue and white and yellow and happy, and there's kids, and you can tell the difference between a real person and what was there.
Here's a little bit of a closer look, if we can see it. So you can see the legs, you can see the coat. Is that a soldier?
It's believed to be a soldier. I gave this photo to Mark Nesbitt, who is also, he writes Ghosts in Gettysburg. He has like about 10 books written about that. So he's an author. He was, I believe, either a park guide or somebody that, is a historian, all that stuff. I mean, he's great. So I gave the photo to him. And I also gave it to a few other people in town to analyze. And it took probably about a year for anybody to get back to me because I guess they do their own thing. And Mark Nesbitt said that he's, obviously we can never be 100% sure in what we're looking at. But he said I have it because I was very honored. But he said, I'm 99% sure you've captured an apparition of a Confederate soldier. Now, for me, I look at that, I see blue. So I'm thinking automatically it's a Union, but most people think it's Confederate.
Okay. And it is very transparent, so it's hard to be for sure. And I know that Confederate and Union soldiers obviously were there. So
that was a very heavily Confederate area. Also, when you look at the photo, you can see where the shadow of the trees is on the opposite side of the tracks. So it's not a shadow of anything. Because you can see the shadows of the trees on the other side of the tracks. If you can see, the first one there, you can see the shadows of the trees on the other side. So it's not a shadow. I mean, I believe it's an apparition, and that's just my belief. That's my, nobody else has to believe that.
Well, I mean, that's to use Tim's word earlier. It's very compelling. I mean, it's so clear. You can see the torso, you can see the head, you can see the legs. I mean, it's very, very clear that it's a bodily figure.
Yeah, and it's different than. And yes, there are people that walk around and reenactment stuff. And one thing that you need to know is that the railroad is privately owned. Nobody technically is supposed to be down there. Any reenactor knows the rules of being in the park. You can't have your rifle, even if it's I believe, and anybody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that you can't even have your reenactment rifle in the park with you or on the battlefield, if you will. So most of those people know what to do and what not to do. And again, like I said, you can see the difference between a real person on the tracks and this. Like, this is different.
And when you took that photo, you didn't say, "Oh, I see something. I need to take a photo."
We didn't see it. Right? And as a matter of fact, the person I was with, I was in Gettysburg for a week, and I was with my girlfriend, and she was not into the paranormal. And she was standing over my shoulder while we were going through the photos. And it was just me and her on the top of the bridge. And she goes, "Wait a minute, go back. What was that?" Nobody was standing on the tracks when you were taking those pictures. And I actually would have thrown that picture out because I didn't see it. She saw it.
Mm-hmm.
So I went back and I looked and I said, "Oh my goodness."
Yeah.
I'm so impressed with the work that you're doing, and thank you for sharing this great evidence and interesting stories about your work. I just want to ask you real quick before we go, like, why do you love doing this kind of investigative work in the paranormal world?
It's like watching a meteor shower. I have such a passion now for the paranormal. And to be, layman's term, ghost hunting and searching for the unknown and wanting to know if there is a life after death, but I love it so much. And it's like a meteor shower, once you're sitting there, you're waiting for a meteor, you're waiting, and all of a sudden you see one, you're like, oh my God, that was awesome. I want more. I want more.
Yeah, it's that adrenaline rush every time you catch a little bit of something. And Gettysburg obviously is a great place to do that because you've caught so much evidence.
Yes.
And like I said at the beginning of our conversation, this is something we're wanting to do more of. We want to talk to more paranormal investigators, more historians. So if you are watching this and you are involved in either of those fields, please reach out to us. I'm going to be reaching out to a lot of people as well. We have a couple more of these style episodes in the works. Taryn, I know that what we've learned from the paranormal community, and yourself, great example, is it's so welcoming and so willing to share the evidence because we all get so excited about it because we're all after the same thing. Yeah. So thank you so much for everything along this journey and for sharing your evidence and interviews.
And I'd love to have you guys back on again. And anytime you need my help, anytime you need anything, you reach out, I'll help you out.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that. And thank you to everybody who watched tonight. Yeah. Stay tuned for more adventures from us. We have some trips planned out and about, as well as some future episodes. And make sure you check out Paranormal Brew and check out what Taryn's up to. She is way better at this than we are. So thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Taryn. Great job. Thank you.
I'll see you next time.
Thank you.